Hey everybody, this is Ross with 714 Ministries International, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you just a thought out of the book of Proverbs chapter 16. So today is day 16, Proverbs 16. Let me give you some of the themes that run throughout this chapter of this book of Proverbs. Your motive is what matters. God is always just. The majority is not always right. There's consequences for your actions. You cannot win when you fight God. Be filled with grace and truth. Reconciliation is one of God's greatest joys. Pride versus humility. Verse 22, you cannot fix stupid. How many times have we heard that in American culture? You can't fix stupid. It's actually Proverbs chapter 16, verse 22. You have to look out for you in verse 26. Your words reveal your heart, bad influences, the meekness of man. Meekness is not weakness, and the sovereignty of God. So those are some of the themes that run throughout the book of Proverbs. Let me read to you verse 31 as we come to a conclusion in this one. It says, the silver-haired head is a crown of glory if it is found in the way of righteousness. I love being around older saints of God, people that have walked with God, not just years, but decades. I had the privilege of working with and ministering beside such a saint. His name is James Creasman, out of the Candler, North Carolina area, the hills of North Carolina. And James Creasman was a World War II vet. He told me a story that one time in World War II, everybody had their stations. And when the alarms go off on the ship, whatever kind of ship he was on, when the alarms go off, everybody goes to their stations. Now, people were cross-trained in their stations, so they had a primary and secondary, according to what James Creasman shared with me. So, he said one day the alarm went off, everybody was going to their stations, and one of his fellow sailors said, hey, I want to take your station, you take mine. I've already talked to the commander, whoever, that we can switch today. And James said, okay, whatever you want to do. Sadly, during one of the battles that he was in on the battleship, that very day when this man switched with him, that station was hit and that man died and he lived, and he always wondered, why was my life spared? That's just one of who knows how many incredible World War II stories there are. But I met James Creasman working at Good News Baptist Church in Candler, North Carolina, where I served as an associate pastor, the first associate pastor ever under Pastor Steve Smith, who, as far as I know, he is still there pastoring away. He's been there forever. He has been there forever. And I served along James Creasman, and I remember one time we needed to fix some of the pews. There was just certain things wrong with certain pews, and somebody had gone through and identified which ones need to be fixed and how they needed to be fixed. And we put a call out for people to come and if they wanted to help during the week. And James answered that call. Brother Creasman answered that call. And he came and worked with me. And I always enjoyed working with him anyway and just hearing his stories and getting to know him. But this particular day, there was just a special presence of God that came across from this man to me. And I just felt from that day forward, I had always admired and respected him, but there was a deeper connection that day. It seemed like every time I was around James Creasman, I was in the very presence of God himself. He just had that blessing on his life. And every time I read this verse, I'm reminded that there are good and godly men, and it's such a testimony to them and their Savior Jesus Christ when you can find someone who has been serving God faithfully, once again, like I said, not for years, but for decades. And you sense the very presence of God. And I felt like this was a man who knew God intimately, spent time with God, much time with God. And it was just a blessing because he reminds me of the verse, the silvered-haired head is a crown of glory if it is found in the way of righteousness. And that was James Creasman. So I hope that blessed you. Have a good day.